From the Presidential Palace, Manila, Dateline Malacañang.
Good day, this is Dateline Malacañang, and here are the news. Philippine President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. ordered concerned government agencies to ensure equal distribution of aid to all those affected by surging oil prices. Presidential Communications Office, PCO Undersecretary, Palace Press Officer Claire Castro said President Marcos issued the order during the third Unified Package for Livelihoods, Industry, Food, and Transport, or Uplift Committee meeting at the Malacañang Palace, attended by heads of several government agencies. The Palace Press Officer said the President also ordered the Uplift Committee members to consider long-term solutions to address problems, especially those concerning fuel and oil supply in the country. Castro said the government also intensified several of its programs to ease the burden on Filipinos caused by the Middle East conflict. Among those discussed and implemented was the 10 pesos per liter fuel subsidy for public utility vehicle or PUV drivers. Castro said the chief executive also ordered that the government use its funds in the fastest and most useful ways possible. She noted that the president also ordered concerned government agencies to ensure that the supply of oil would be continuous for the country to have continued economic progress.
Upang mas lalo pang mapalakas ang suporta sa mga kababayan nating naaapektuhan ng mataas na presyo ng langis, pinangunahan ni Pangulong Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. ang ikatlong Unified Package for Livelihoods, Industry, Food and Transport o Uplift Committee meeting sa Malacañang. Kabilang sa mga programang makatutulong sa ating mga kababayan ang pag-roll out ng 10 pesos per liter na fuel subsidy para sa ating mga drivers. Mas lalo pang pinag-iigting ng pamahalaan ang lahat ng mga hakbang upang maibsan ang pasanin ng ating mga kababayan dulot ng kaguluhan sa Middle East. Ang utos ni Pangulong Marcos Jr. sa Uplift Committee ay siguraduhin na maaabot ang lahat ng mga maaapektuhan at tiyakin na equal distribution ang tulong na maibibigay sa mga nangangailangan. Gamitin ang pondo sa pinakamabilis at kapaki-pakinabang na pamamaraan. Dapat ring siguruhin ang tuloy-tuloy na supply ng langis para sa patuloy na pag-usad ng ekonomiya ng bansa. Bilin din ng Pangulo sa committee na kailangang pag-isipan ang long-term solutions lalong-lalo na sa fuel at oil supply sa bansa.
Presidential Communications Office, PCO Undersecretary, Palace Press Officer Claire Castro.
Dateline Malacañang.
The Philippine Department of Energy, or DOE, has officially started a 10 pesos per liter diesel discount for public utility vehicles, or PUVs, as part of the government fuel subsidy program aimed at easing the impact of rising oil prices. DOE Secretary Sharon Garin said the program is being implemented as a pilot in the National Capital Region, or NCR, targeting 52 accredited gas stations, with 33 gas stations have already been enrolled as of Tuesday, while the registration of the others are currently being processed. The DOE Secretary said the initiative is part of the Unified Package for Livelihood, Industry, Food, and Transport, or Uplift, which aims to support the transport sector and commuters directly affected by high fuel costs. Under the program, qualified PUV operators may avail of a 10 pesos discount per liter of diesel, with a maximum of 150 liters per week, equivalent to a 1,500 pesos weekly subsidy. The subsidy resets weekly, and any unused amount will not carry over.
There's a 10 peso discount for every jeepney today, starting today, for diesel consumption. Which gas stations will be participating as a pilot or phase 1, because this is a new program, this is on top of the other programs of government. We are targeting 52 gas stations in NCR, in Metro Manila. And 52 yan kasi yun yung nakalista na may mga permit sa amin. And so far, there are 33 na na-enroll na. The other 19 stations, ongoing yung enrollment. So within the day, makukumpleto na yung 19. O kung meron man kayong mapuntahan na gas station na hindi nag-o-offer, dahil ayaw nilang sumama sa discounting.
Of Transportation, DOTR Secretary Giovanni Lopez said the DOTR is working with the Land Transportation Franchising and Regulatory Board, or LTFRB, which will provide a list of qualified beneficiaries and submit the official whitelist to the Land Bank of the Philippines for validation. According to Secretary Lopez, the program is expected to benefit over 171,000 PUV units nationwide once fully rolled out. In Metro Manila alone, an estimated 33,000 units operate daily. The program aims to reduce operational costs for drivers, increase income for operators and drivers, and ensure continuous and reliable transport service for commuters. The pilot implementation is expected to run for 3 months, during which the government will closely monitor its impact before a possible nationwide expansion. This is a concrete step by the government to support drivers and ensure the commuters continue to have access to public transportation despite rising fuel prices, in accordance with the order of President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr.
Ngayon po, meron po tayong sinasabing participating gasoline stations. Meron po silang listahan din po ng mga sinasabi ng legitimate operators. Ito pong 10 pesos na discount kada litro, meron po itong cap, maximum cap per week po. Ito po ay 150 liters. So in other words, makakaasa po ang ating mga pampublikong sasakyan, itong jeepney at saka UV Express, ng maximum of 1,500 pesos po per week. Ngayon, kapag hindi po natin naubos yung 1,500 pesos, yan ba ay magke-carry over sa susunod na linggo? Hindi ho. Hindi po. So, kailangan na maubos that week, yung 5 days po na sinasabi natin yung 1,500 pesos or 150 liters po, no, na kada linggo.
Department of Transportation, DOTR Secretary Giovanni Lopez.
Dateline Malacañang.
The Department of Energy, DOE, has directed all legitimate gas stations to participate in the fuel discount program, but only 33 of 52 stations were initially onboarded due to pending registration in the Land Bank app. In a palace press briefing, DOE Secretary Sharon Garin expressed optimism that Land Bank personnel would be able to complete the registration of all 52 gas stations in Metro Manila, noting that the government program offering a 10 pesos per liter discount for public utility vehicles will be rolled out nationwide. The DOE Secretary added that the government program offering a 10 pesos per liter discount for PUV will pilot in NCR, but will eventually be implemented nationwide at the orders of President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. to help cushion the impact of high oil prices.
I have issued a directive this morning na lahat na legitimate gas stations have to participate. So, halos lahat naman, no? Why is it only 33 out of 52? Kasi hindi pa tapos yung pag-register nila sa Land Bank app. So, ngayon po tinatrabaho na. As of kanina, nung hindi pa kami pumapasok, 33 ang na-confirm. So, but now, I think there are more now. Umiikot actually ang mga taga-Land Bank ngayon eh. Inisa-isa nila yung gas stations.
Meanwhile, Land Bank President and CEO Lynette Ortiz expressed the commitment to completing the registration of all 52 gasoline stations in Metro Manila.
I think we assure the public that the 52 will be onboarded today. So we're all hands on deck just to make sure that the 52 gas stations will be opening Land Bank accounts. And as I mentioned, this is really through our mobile banking app. So everything becomes very easy and convenient for both the gas station and we hope for the PUV drivers as well.
Not all PUV drivers are tech-savvy. Garin said the mechanism is basic. PUV drivers must bring their registered vehicles when availing of the fuel discount, as verification will be based on the vehicle's plate number.
Dateline Malacañang.
Energy Secretary Sharon Garin assured that the country has sufficient energy supply based on the current inventory of major petroleum products. In a Palace press briefing following the third Unified Package for Livelihoods, Industry, Food and Transport or Uplift Committee meeting at the Palace, Secretary Garin said the DOE's efforts to ensure a stable energy supply are based on the instruction of Philippine President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. Assuring the public of a stable inventory, Garin said the country has an average 50-day supply of all products. For LPG, there is a 36-day supply, for kerosene 105 days, for diesel 49 days, and for gasoline 54 days.
The lowest right now is at 36 days of LPG, but yesterday we confirmed an order together with PNOC and our oil companies na nangangailangan, and we have made an additional order yesterday morning, and I think we will reach about 50 days by today also on average. So maganda pa naman yung supply level natin, but that will depend also on what will happen with the Strait of Hormuz, anong availability ng oil sa ibang country. So, pero maganda pong number na to kasi binibigyan tayo ng 50 days to make the replenishment. Hindi po mauubos to pagka after 50 days. Ang ibig sabihin nito, makakahanap tayo habang kinukonsumo na natin within the 50 days.
In that, Secretary Garin said the DOE is continuing to work on solutions such as fast-tracking rooftop solar, net metering, and installing more renewables to make the Philippines less and less dependent on Middle East oil, which makes the country vulnerable to global tensions. The energy chief also appealed to the public to cut electricity and fuel consumption, whether it's through government programs or through people's day-to-day activities in homes and in offices.
Dateline Malacañang.
Energy Secretary Sharon Garin said the Department of Energy or DOE is focusing on diversifying crude oil sourcing to ensure a sufficient fuel supply if the 30-day waiver on buying Russian crude is not extended. In a Palace press briefing, Garin said they have communicated with the Department of Foreign Affairs or DFA to request another window or extension for the lifting of the embargo on Russian oil, adding that they are awaiting the response from the U.S. side.
We have communicated with the Department of Foreign Affairs for another window or extension of the lifting ng embargo. So they have communicated this with our ambassador in the US. We're awaiting for the response, pero we're very positive on getting this other window. If it doesn't come through, we have other options also. Hindi lang naman kasi Russia ang nagpo-produce. Ang South America meron din. Sa, diba, Colombia, Argentina, halos lahat sila niyan sa South America meron. Even Canada, US. They are different types of crude oil, pero ang refined products nila magagamit pa rin natin. Even in near countries like Brunei, India, marami pa rin naman tayong other options. We wanted to open the Russian window because we want more options. Diversification kailangan para hindi tayo dependent sa isang country lang.
The chief said the Philippines can source crude from South American countries like Colombia and Argentina, as well as North American nations like Canada and the U.S. While there are different types of crude oil, she explained that refined products are also usable and can be sourced from neighboring countries such as Brunei and India. Asked whether the country expects more deliveries from Russia, she said that based on a weekly report from oil companies, there are no existing orders from Russia. Garin assured that the fuel inventory is stable, noting that the country has an average of a 50-day supply of all petroleum products, including LPG, kerosene, diesel, and gasoline. Dateline
Malacañang.
The Land Transportation, Franchising and Regulatory Board, or LTFRB, said the April 15 initial rollout of the government's Service Contracting Program, or SCP, will be supported by an online system designed to streamline key processes and make assistance more accessible to public utility vehicle, or PUV, drivers and operators. The SCP aims to compensate PUV drivers and operators based on kilometers driven, ensuring the continuous delivery of transport services and easing the impact of oil disruptions caused by tensions in the Middle East. LTFRB Chairman Vigor Mendoza said PUV drivers and operators may access the LTFRB portal where the SCP will be available. By selecting the program, applicants will be directed to a one-page registration form that requires essential information such as their name, case number, and the type of vehicle they use. Before submitting their application, a section of terms and conditions of the SCP will also appear, in which participants must read and consent. These conditions include operating daily with a minimum of 100 kilometers, providing passengers with a 20% fare discount, and displaying official signage on their vehicles that clearly indicates they are part of the program so commuters can easily identify them.
Yung ating gagawin, online rin po ito, no? We take advantage of technology. Online nung sila, bubuksan nila yung portal ng LTFRB, lalabas na po doon yung service contracting, kiklik lang na yun, parang registration form, one-pager lang po yun, sasagad ilalagay yung pangalan po nila, yung case number nila, at anong klaseng sasakyan meron sila. Ilalagay, type lang nila, sulat nila, yung plate number ng mga sasakyan na gusto nila isali sa program, no? Tapos kung gusto nila makita yung mga rota, meron ng referral click na lahat ng rota ho, naka-arrange na po yun, lalabas, titingnan nila kung kasama sila sa rota. Tapos, pupuduin lang po yung form na yon. Ang pinakahuli doon that they will consent to the terms and conditions ng ating service contracting program, which is basically yung kailangan nila tumakbo araw-araw, no? At least 100 kilometers a day, yun na po yung covered ng ating programa. They have to afford the passengers with a 20% discount, no? And kailangan po nila maglagay ng karatula sa kanilang sasakyan na sila ay kasama sa service contracting program para ma-identify po ng mga pasahero na sila yung sasakyan na magbibigay ng discount.
Well, LTFRB continues to organize the routes and conduct testing of GPS integration to support the program's implementation. Mendoza said that what makes the enhanced SCP different from past programs is that the LTFRB now will be more proactive as they can access data directly from GPS providers compared to before when GPS providers only submitted reports. The GPS tracker will be installed in every participating PUV unit. Under the SCP, approximately 1,000 transport operators, 50,000 PUV units such as traditional and modernized jeepney, UV Express, city buses, and EDSA carousel buses, and 15 million commuters are expected to benefit. The SCP will also be implemented across 823 PUV routes.
Dateline Malacañang.
The Department of Agriculture said it will release the 10 billion pesos worth of financial aid to farmers and fishers on April 15, in line with the Marcos administration's response to caution the impact of rising fuel costs on the agriculture sector. In an interview, DA Secretary Francisco Chu Laurel said that the assistance would be released simultaneously nationwide. Earlier, the DA said each eligible beneficiary will receive a cash assistance amounting to 2,325 pesos. Most of the more than 4 million beneficiaries come from the rice sector, totaling 2.197 million. This was followed by 1.475 million corn producers, more than 102,000 sugar farmers, and about 399,000 fishers nationwide. The PUF is a financial aid on top of the fuel subsidies earlier released to registered farmers and fishers. Other funds, including the 1 billion pesos Quick Response Fund or QRF and unused fuel subsidy budget from previous years, are being eyed to further cushion the impact of rising oil prices on local food producers. Meanwhile, Chu Laurel said they have secured commitment from toll operators to waive fees for agricultural commodities. The DA chief said these include South Luzon Expressways, Tarlac, Pangasinan, La Union Expressway, and Muntinlupa Cavite Expressways, among others. The DFA has also assured logistics assistance through the deployment of food trucks to ensure the delivery of agricultural commodities from farms to trading posts or local markets.
Dateline Malacañang.
Still from the DA, the Department of Agriculture or DA assured that the supply of rice remains stable despite the effects of global oil prices or pressures. In a statement, Agriculture Secretary Francisco Chu Laurel Jr. said the rice supply will be secured for entire year, considering a good local palay or unhusked rice harvest, alongside global rice availability from the world's major rice exporters like Vietnam and India. Chu Laurel also reiterated that the 20% projected decline in palay output only represents the worst-case scenario in relation to the effects of Middle East tensions. The estimation factors in the higher global oil prices and increased fertilizer prices, but with no government intervention in place. Chu Laurel then assured that early action, strong inventory levels, and flexible policy tools will help in maintaining food security. Among the early interventions of the government are the release of fuel subsidies, target distribution of 10 billion pesos worth of presidential assistance for farmers and fisher folk, planned utilization of part of the Quick Response Fund for the procurement of biofertilizers, and additional 20 billion pesos for farm input, among others. The DA is also providing logistical support to local food producers to cushion rising transport costs. The DA likewise assured a sufficient supply of the 20 pesos per kilogram under the Benteng Bigas Meron Na or BBM na. Chu Laurel said the initiative uses only rice purchased by the National Food Authority from local farmers, reinforcing both affordability for consumers and support for domestic producers.
Dateline Malacañang.
The Department of Finance or DOF warned the government could incur up to 43.6 billion pesos in revenue losses over 3 months if it expands the suspension of excise taxes by including diesel and gasoline. Speaking to Palace reporters, DOF Undersecretary Carlo Adriano said the current approved measure covering liquefied petroleum gas or LPG and kerosene would result in an estimated 4.1 billion pesos in foregone revenues for 3 months.
For LPG and kerosene, if you take a look at the law, it's a maximum of 3 months muna. So let's talk about 3 months. In assuming 100 USD price per barrel on average. So for full suspension of LPG and kerosene, the losses will be around 4.1 billion pesos for 3 months. Now, if you decide to include a suspension of diesel and gasoline and LPG and kerosene on top, it will be around 43.6 billion pesos losses in 3 months.
Excise tax suspension on LPG and kerosene was approved by Philippine President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. following recommendations from the Development Budget Coordination Committee or DBCC to balance fiscal responsibility with targeted relief measures. Despite calls to expand the suspension to diesel and gasoline, Adriano said DBCC is taking a cautious approach and continues to conduct monthly policy reviews. Adriano clarified that while higher global oil prices may increase value-added tax or VAT collections by 13 billion pesos over 3 months, that would not be enough to offset the potential revenue losses from a full suspension. Adriano said a move is intended to directly benefit low-income households since majority of kerosene and LPG consumers come from the poor and marginalized sectors. Citing data from the Philippine Statistics Authority's 2023 Family Income and Expenditure Survey, Adriano noted that around 50% of kerosene consumption comes from the poorest 38% of the Filipino households, while 56% of LPG consumption is attributed to the bottom 70%. Adriano said the suspension is expected to bring savings of around 36.85 pesos per 11 kilogram LPG cylinder and 5.60 pesos per liter of kerosene. Instead of a broader tax suspension, the government is implementing targeted subsidies, including a 10 pesos per liter fuel subsidy program.
Dateline Malacañang.
That is all for today's Dateline Malacañang for Radyo Pilipinas World Service. This has been Bea Gaza-de Guzman.
From the Presidential Palace, Manila, Dateline Malacañang.